Hello humans, I'm the Alien Doctor, but you can call me Alien, and welcome to my testing world, which is actually a world that you don't really see very often. So if you cast your minds back to 2022, I think it was, I reached 1,000 subscribers, and I did a poll asking what people would like for my 1K sub special, and it was a setup tour. Now, there's a few more of you since I did that poll. Sorry it's taken so long to do this video. Long story short, I kept like changing stuff, and I wanted to give like a full setup. This is going to be like the most in-depth setup tour on YouTube ever, because I'm also going to be taking you behind the scenes and taking a look at some of the software I use as well. I would also like to say that you do not need to have what I have to make videos. Obviously it helps, but if you want to make videos, then like you really do not need to have a fancy gaming computer and a fancy microphone and all that sort of thing. There are content creators both bigger and smaller than me that have way less and are still making absolutely amazing content. Now, to prove that to you, here is a quick montage of my setup throughout the years. Okay, so here it is. This is like my setup. Well, now you've seen my old setups, let's take a look at the current one. So starting at the far left, we have my microphone. I use a Shure MV7X microphone, which is exactly the same as the regular MV7X, but it just doesn't have the USB port, so it's much more affordable because it only has an XLR port. I then have my microphone mounted to a pretty cheap boom arm I got many years ago off of Amazon that whenever I move is incredibly noisy, so I can't move it whilst recording, which is kind of an issue, but whatever. And whenever I'm not using my headphones, they rest on the boom arm like you can see now. I use the HD560S from Sennheiser, which are an absolutely great pair of headphones and have helped me tune my mic to exactly how I want it to be. Speaking about my mic, it goes into a relatively new part of the setup, which is my Go XLR. I used to have a Go XLR Mini, but recently I upgraded to the full-size version, and this basically just handles all of my audio routing, meaning I can easily change different inputs to different outputs. It also has a built-in soundboard and sampler and lots of other built-in effects to make my mic sound much nicer, and they all run on the device itself, so it's not really using any of your computer's CPU power, which is helpful for performance. This is like one of my favorite parts of the setup. I really like it, and it really helps get my microphone exactly how I want it to be. So coming out of the Go XLR, I also have my speakers. They are the Creative Pebble V3s, and considering how cheap they are, they're actually pretty good. I mostly use them for listening to music when I don't want to have headphones on, so for any audio sensitive work, I still use my headphones. But moving on from the audio stuff, we also have my computer monitors. I use an LG Ultra Gear something or another. It's 1440p and 144Hz with 1 millisecond response time, so it's great for gaming and also video editing because it means the higher resolution lets me have like much more space on the timeline. It's kind of hard to explain if you don't edit, but it's just very nice having a larger monitor size and also a bigger resolution as well. I then have my old main monitor as my second monitor, which is 1080p but also has 144Hz refresh rate and 1 millisecond response time. They're both on this super tall monitor arm, which allowed me to put stuff underneath my monitors, so that's just making the most of the space, and it also puts them nice and high. IRL, I'm pretty tall, and unlike lots of people, I like my monitors at eye level so I don't ruin my neck. That's why the monitor arm looks so tall. It's probably a good time to finally talk about the computer itself though. So I built it at the end of 2020, and ever since then I've been adding to it. It has a Ryzen 7 3800X processor and an RTX 4070 Ti. So it's rare I really run into performance issues ever, which is great. and it can play a lot of games with decent frame rates at 1440p, which is very, very nice to have. It also has 32 gigabytes of Corsair LPX RAM running at 3600 MHz clock speed. It has the MSI Mag B550 Tomahawk motherboard as well, and all of that's in a Corsair 275R airflow case. I also have a Corsair H100 Pro XT AIO water cooler to keep my processor nice and cool as well. For storage, I have an NVMe PCIe Gen 4 1TB SSD from Samsung, and I use this as my boot drive. I then have another 1TB M.2 SSD for all of my projects, so I can edit off of an SSD, which helps me not have lag and all that sort of thing when I'm editing. I then have lots of old hard drives that I've collected over time, mostly from people just giving me like old computers they no longer use. I use these for archiving all my projects. So I have footage from almost every single video I've ever uploaded, dating all the way back to my first proper video. At some point, I want to just get like 2 massive hard drives and then put them in RAID so they're constantly backing each other up. But for now, I've kind of got this janky solution of it just scattered across multiple hard drives. Going back to my desk now, I also have a Stream Deck. I'll go over this in the next part of the video a little bit more, but I use this for much more than just switching scenes in my stream, and I'm always trying to find other cool things to use it for to help speed up my workflow. I also have the Corsair K57 keyboard and the Corsair Nightsword RGB mouse, which is actually a new addition. Behind that, I also have the Corsair M65 Pro mouse, which is my old mouse that I now use for controlling my laptop. Speaking of my laptop, it's a 2021 HP Omen 15 laptop. It's broken in multiple ways, so to be honest, I wouldn't really recommend it. But it's what I use for any of the RTX time lapses you see, and like AlienBot runs on it and that sort of thing. Next to my laptop, I also have an Xbox Series S and a Nintendo Switch, both of which are actually shared between myself and my brother, but he rarely uses them, so they kind of just ended up in my room. You could also see that aerial thingy, which comes out of my computer's wireless card and helps me get slightly better Wi-Fi. I used to use Ethernet, but we don't have a mesh system anymore, so I don't have anything to plug the Ethernet into, which is a shame, and we don't have wiring in the house for like proper Ethernet. So Wi-Fi, honestly, the Wi-Fi here isn't that bad, so it's not a huge issue. Next to this, I also have an Elgato HD60X, which sends the footage from my consoles into my computer so I can then record it in whatever software I like. Believe it or not, it can actually do higher than HD 1080p. I've used it to record 1440p 120 FPS on the Xbox, for example, and the Switch is capped at 1080p 60. Although admittedly, when I am recording the Nintendo Switch, I do upscale it in post, so it actually looks a lot nicer than how I see it. So moving back across my desk to the left side, I also have a little controller wall, which is actually just the side of my desk, where I keep both the Xbox controllers, my pretty new Nintendo Switch Pro controller, with of course the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom art style on, and also a PlayStation 4 controller from when we used to have a PlayStation. We no longer do because we don't need it, we all have computers. But I still use that controller for the smooth camera shots you sometimes see in videos, particularly in intros recently. You can also see there's my granddad's old iMac. I can't remember what year it's from, but it's still somewhat functional, believe it or not. It does have a couple of minor issues because it's pretty old. What can I say? If you want to see the cable management, I'm just using a cable sleeve, and then I have a cable tray clamped to the back of my desk as well. If you watched the 2021 setup tour, you'll also remember the Lego Death Star. Don't worry, that's still here, and it has a much nicer new place on a shelf where it just looks much nicer. Of course, I still have lots of other Lego in my wardrobe, under my bed, on the floor, and on some shelves. I'm still a huge fan of Lego, although I don't really get any new Lego anymore. I still have like all of my old Lego because it's just so cool. Lego is cool, okay? Also, side note, but recently I got these Doctor Who posters for Christmas, which look really cool. We haven't got enough command strips to finish putting up the other 2, but I have basically the first 5 series of Doctor Who as posters, and soon I'll put up the other 2, and if I do it in time for this video, I'll put a photo on screen now. But for now, you can just see the 3 that we have put up from series 1, 2, and 3. They look really, really nice. I really, really like them. Well, I think that's everything to do with the hardware of my setup, so let's take a look at the software, starting with, well, my desktop. It looks like this. I tried to keep it clean by having all of these like organized into rows, but honestly, I'm probably going to delete like all of these icons eventually and just have the wallpaper, because I actually normally launch stuff from the taskbar or with the Windows search button. But anyway, starting things off with how I record, because that's the main thing I do on my computer, I use OBS Studio. And it's what I've used since the beginning. It's a great piece of software and works really, really well. Thanks to my Go XLR, which I'll show you the software for in a little bit, I actually have all of my different audio tracks on like separate tracks so that I can change the volumes of them manually in editing as well, which is really, really nice. I have all of these preset scenes for all of these different, specific things. So like if I want to record Fortnite for whatever reason, I can press this one and that will automatically pick up Fortnite. But normally I just record my entire display. If you're interested in the settings I use, then here are the recording settings I use. So you can go ahead and pause them and maybe copy them if you want to. And these are the audio settings I use. These are just devices. It doesn't really matter too much. Video, I actually record in native 1440p because my monitor is in 1440p, so I might as well. Advanced is also pretty simple, and I think that's really everything for interesting settings. I also use OBS Studio for streaming, which I can actually do by pressing the profile button and switching over to, where is it? YouTube Live 1440p. And then Scene Collection YouTube Live, and then close this because it's useless. So normally I'd actually do that process with my Stream Deck, but I can't actually press the buttons right now because I've got two OBSs open so that I can record this, and if I press the button it will mess up the OBS I'm recording this on. But anyway, this is essentially what I see in terms of controlling the stream, or at least what's physically being sent out. So currently I only have 3 scenes. I have the starting soon, one called bottom left, and then be right back. Now, the idea is I'm going to have bottom left, top right, bottom left. And that's to do with where I actually have the overlay. So the idea will be is that I have 4 different versions of the same overlay just in different corners. So no matter what I'm streaming, it's not in the way, and I can like just choose whichever one depending on what I'm streaming. But I've not quite finished setting that up yet because the overlay is still quite new. If you're interested in my streaming settings, then here they are. I'm also streaming in 1440p as well because YouTube supports it, but obviously when I'm streaming on Twitch, I have to stream in 1080p because Twitch has terrible bitrate. In the advanced audio properties, I have the audio track 6 sending out audio to the stream. So anything on audio track 6 gets sent out to the stream, and then 1, 2, and 3 are used for recording, so I can record the stream at the same time, which is helpful if I want to include a clip of the stream like in a video. The other thing that I have is replay buffer. So when I actually start the stream using my Stream Deck, it starts the replay buffer. What I can then do is press another button on my Stream Deck, or just press it right here, and it actually saves the past 5 minutes of the stream as a recording with all the separate audio tracks. So I then am able to edit down that recording into a YouTube short and then obviously post it. So that's how I have the high quality YouTube shorts with like different music compared to what was playing on the stream and that sort of thing as well. In terms of other applications I use for streaming, I actually use streamer.bot, which is the chat bot that you'll see in my chat. So it comes up with AlienBot because it lets you set a custom channel, but that's actually just running on StreamerBot, and I have various different commands and actions and whatnot. And I'm actually working on getting YouTube points, or just points, so that we can have redemptions on my YouTube streams like you can on Twitch as well, which will be really, really quite nice. StreamerBot is a really, really powerful bot for both YouTube and for Twitch. I would strongly recommend it, especially if you stream on YouTube, where most bots don't have great integration with YouTube. Streamer.bot is actually pretty good at that. And the other thing is, because it's physically running on your computer, you could use it to interact with files that may be on your computer. For example, I use this app. It's called Fubar 2000. I use it for playing music, and whatever song it's currently playing actually gets outputted to a text file. So then StreamerBot is able to read that text file and output it to the !song command, as you can see here. So it reads line 0 from that text file and then output this message. So that's the other thing about using a bot that like physically runs on your computer instead of one that's like on a website or in the cloud or whatever they do these days. So would strongly recommend that. And as I mentioned, I use this app called Fubar for like music and stuff because it's just a really nice little MP3 player that I can also sort my tracks into playlists. And it has a couple of like plugin type things For the overlay, I use streamelements.com, and I also use a couple of the moderation features on the Stream Elements bot as well. This essentially just does the stream overlay, giving me like the latest subs, it puts the chat on screen and all of that sort of thing. This is also where I do like the tipping, so if you want to tip or donate to the stream, then you do it through Stream Elements, but StreamerBot is able to interact with Stream Elements and actually gets that information from Stream Elements. So you don't really see Stream Elements anymore because it's all just behind the scenes stuff in how I use it. So I've also mentioned my Stream Deck quite a lot, and I figured I might as well show you what I have set up on here. So this is the home page. Now this button right here, if I click that on the actual Stream Deck, it basically opens this little profile selector so that I can select different profiles, but by default I just leave it on this one. So I guess we'll just go along, but I have this button here, which basically switches my output from my headphones to my speakers. If I press this button, it lets me hear my microphone in my headphones, which is helpful for when I'm messing around with voice effects. We have this one, which is for when I'm recording Nintendo Switch or Xbox. It basically just changes my Go XLR to have to use line in so I can record the audio on the Switch or the Xbox. This is just the main Go XLR audio profile. This button I don't really use, but it's essentially the same as Windows Shift S, just as a button, but I just do Windows Shift S, so I don't really need it. This is pretty cool. If I press this, it actually gets the hex color of whatever my mouse cursor is looking at. So like, let's say I wanted to figure out what color, like exact color this background was. If I just put my mouse here and then press that button, then it gets copied to my clipboard, as you can see here. If I press this button, it just opens my YouTube channel, and this one opens my website. This one tells me my current subscriber count. This one tells me my CPU usage, although I think it's like only one core of the CPU, so it's not super helpful. But if I do press it, it actually goes ahead and opens Task Manager, which is quite nice. This one tells me how long my computer's been on for, and this one tells me how many members are currently online in my Discord server, which you should join, by the way, link in the description. As you can see, I have lots of other Stream Deck profiles. The only other one I really use is this one, which is my YouTube streaming profile. So I have a couple of stuff here. These all change different scenes, which I kind of showed you earlier. We have this one to save the replay buffer, which saves the last 5 minutes of the stream. This one is the same as the homepage, where I can turn it on and off to basically hear myself in my headphones. I have this to hide the overlay in case the overlay is blocking something. This to enable a filter to make it a little bit easier to see if like the game is particularly dark. And then this is for when the stream is ending, I can turn on the supporters and thanks for watching screen, which basically just has a list of all my current YouTube members and patrons and things like that. It actually reads a Photoshop file that I have to go in and manually update. So that is one drawback, is that if you become a member during the stream, you then won't be on the thanks for watching at the end of the stream, but there's not much I can do about that. If I press this button to go to the next page, this is like the control of the stream. So I have this one to open all the apps I need, and this one to set OBS to the right profile and scene collection. This starts the 5-minute countdown for when the stream is starting. It outputs to a text file, which then gets read in OBS. This starts the stream and the replay buffer, and also the stopwatch that you see in the bottom corner. This one stops all of that, and this one closes all the stream apps for when I'm done. So yeah, that's kind of how I use my Stream Deck. There is a couple of other stuff I do, but that's sort of the main interesting parts. But yeah, I've just been trying to do as much as I can with this thing. So like, for example, I used to have separate apps for doing the stopwatch and the countdown and things like that, but I can do that all on the Stream Deck now. So it's really quite nice. I also use the Go XLR buttons all the time on the Stream Deck for like turning on and off monitoring of my speakers. It's super helpful because then I don't have to go in and manually change it in Windows or in the Go XLR app. So that's really, really nice. Speaking of the Go XLR app, here it is. So this is my microphone settings down here. I'm using a gain of 50 decibels. It always says clipping has occurred, but like it just always says that, and I don't think it has. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. If I like change it by 1 and then get rid of it. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, look, I got really loud then. It didn't even say clipping has occurred. So I don't know what's going on then. But yeah, I use a gain of 50 dB. I have this noise gate set up, which basically only lets through sounds that are above a certain volume. I have this EQ set up. And actually, if there's anybody good at audio stuff that happens to be watching this, I'd really appreciate some advice. I'll put on screen now my old settings for the Go XLR Mini. I really, really like the sound that created. but I haven't been able to replicate it properly on the full-size Go XLR, so any advice on that would be helpful. I also have the compressor over here, which I haven't really changed forever. This makes me louder if I'm a little bit too quiet and quieter if I'm a little bit too louder. And then the de-esser, which makes my S's a lot less harsh. And actually, I think that's meant to be at 55. If we go over to the mixer tab, this essentially just shows you all the different audio levels. And like, if you look at, say, the chat, for example, I can move the physical fader and you can see their chat volume is going down. Because these are motorized, they don't always get exactly to the right number, which is a little bit annoying. So I have to go ahead and manually type it in, but it's not a huge difference. And then we also have mic monitoring for when that's enabled and the actual headphone volume as well. We have some effects in here, which I haven't messed around with loads, but I can do various things. For example, I can make it sound like I'm speaking out of a megaphone. But yeah, overall, I don't really use that too much. And then this one is the sampler, so I can press these different buttons to either play a preset sound. So for example, if I press this one, it actually plays the goat scream sound, which sounds like that. And then if I actually hold down those buttons, then I can actually record a sample and then replay it back. So this is an example of me recording a sample and playing it back. So this is an example of me recording a sample and playing it back. So there you go. I don't really know why this has its own tab, but I can press this button to make a swear bleep. And then I can hold down this button if I need to like cough or something to mute my mic. We have the RGB and then the audio routing. So this is like really, really helpful because it lets me choose where I want different inputs to be outputted to. So you sort of have two proper outputs that you can like use in OBS. You have chat mic and then you have the broadcast stream mix. So I have the music and any of the system volume going to the broadcast stream mix, and then my microphone goes to chat mic. And then when I want to capture the like Discord audio, I have that on a separate thing, like a separate channel that is still part of the Go XLR, but I can't control with the faders, but I can control how loud I hear the voice chat, just not the recording. It's kind of complicated to explain, so I'm not going to go over it. Sorry. And yeah, I think that's like basically it for the Go XLR. So it might start to lag a little bit, but this is DaVinci Resolve Studio, and this is actually what I use for editing my videos. So this is the paid version, but you can do basically everything the same in the free version. There's just a couple of minor stuff I wanted that are in the paid that aren't in the free, but I could survive with the free as well. Also, I got the paid version on like a very, very good discount. So like, you know, I figured I might as well. But this is actually PinaCraft episode 20, which is already released now. And this is a pretty standard timeline, as you can see here. You may notice these blue markers. These are actually YouTube chapters that I can then use a program to export them and like make the actual YouTube chapters, which is really quite nice. And if you're wondering what program that is, it's the YouTube prep publishing tools thingy from Mad Hatter. I'll try and remember to leave a link in the description, but this lets you do all sorts of stuff. So it sets the markers to clipboard, which you can then copy and paste the YouTube chapters. It transcribes audio, which I've never actually used before. And then it also cuts out gaps between audio. So that's actually what I use to create the long play videos, if you've seen any of those as well. It's a really neat little piece of open source software written in Python. For my thumbnails, I actually use Adobe Photoshop, and I actually have a student discount on this because of my college. So I also have access to the other Adobe apps as well, but I only really use Photoshop for videos and for the thumbnails because I'm not a huge fan of Premiere Pro, I'm going to be honest. For basically any coding, I use Visual Studio Code because it has really good integration with GitHub, which is useful because all of my projects are open source on GitHub. So yep, that's Visual Studio Code. If you're interested, for my Minecraft launcher, I use Multi-MC for Java Edition. I use Foxy No-Tail's version switcher for Bedrock Edition, which also has all the nice profiles as well, which is really quite nice. And that's kind of it, I guess. I can't really think of anything else. I mean, I use Chrome as my browser, Discord for any sort of communication generally. So there's that. I don't know. Do you care what email client I use? If you do, I use Outlook. I feel like we've literally gone over basically everything on my taskbar at this point, but there you go. Before I end the video, I thought I'd quickly mention that I recorded all the IRL footage except what you're watching now on this camera, which is my Nikon D7500. I basically use this camera for my college coursework and also for some photography outside of that as well, and just general stuff, so I figured I might as well use it for this. And lots of the shots I had on a tripod. Originally, I was going to record this using my Rode VideoMic Go, I think this is called. I can't remember, but I have this little Rode mic. Originally, I was going to record the voiceover at the same time as recording the video as well, but this thing just sounded so bad that it wasn't worth it, so I just scripted a voiceover instead, which is why this video took a little bit longer to make, so sorry about that. But yeah, I also have this, and I also do own a dead cat for it as well for the wind, but it's not very windy inside, so yeah, don't really need that. But anyway, I think that should be everything, so huge thank you for watching, and a huge thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this video. If you have any questions about this stuff, feel free to comment them, and I will try my best to answer, or you can join my Discord and ask there. I'll see you in the next video coming very, very soon. Bye-bye.